Well, this week fast pitch softball moves to the nation's capital for the 1998 Men's National Championship. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Michael Palmer. Well, after a week of frantic action, the seedings are in place for the finals, and today we've got a special treat, first against second, WA versus Queensland, and for the winner, a spot in the grand final. Joining me in commentary is Joyce Lester. Joyce, WA are very strong. Can Queensland stop them?
Well, Queensland have had a great week, especially with the bat. They've got the two top hitters for the tournament in Shane King and Terry Downs. Whereas WA, they're just so consistent. They're such a great hitting team. They've got 7 hitters batting over 300 at the moment. They're going to be so hard to beat. And being a Queenslander, I hate to say it, but I think WA will have the edge.
The final round of games before the playoffs saw some really mixed results. Queensland shocked WA 7-0, then WA bounced back to beat New South Wales. Then ACT came out and beat Queensland 7-0. Victoria 8-0 over New South Wales and 11-1 over South Australia. ACT also defeated South Australia 14-2. It left the standings this way: Western Australia on top with 8 wins, Queensland with 7. ACT and Victoria make up the top 4. Then New South Wales with 3 victories, South Australia in 6th place with only 1 win from their 10 games. Umpires are all ready for the game. On the plate, Bob Henning. He's a guest here in Australia from British Columbia in Canada, and he'll be calling the balls and strikes for this important contest between Queensland and Western Australia to see who's going to move straight into the grand final. Western Australia, the batting order: Justin Golds leads off, hitting 400. Then Glenn Knight, Russell Taylor and Dean Marangoni. Mark Adams, the left fielder, hitting 440 with 2 home runs. Then Steve Oliver, Adam Humble hitting 407. Dave McKenzie in the 8th spot. And batting 9th, the shortstop, Steve Tutchell at 313. Defensively for Queensland around the outfield, Scott Sunley, Ray Lane and Chris McRae. The infielders: Jeff Champneys, Shane King, Ralph Nathan and Phil Horn. Brett Walker's going to do the catching. On the mound, Terry Downs, thrown 12 innings, given up 8 hits, struck out 27, an earned run average of 2.27. Good crowd in again on a nice day here in Canberra. All looking forward expectantly to this big game between the best 2 teams in Australian men's softball.
And the 2 other times they've played each other, Michael, Queensland won 1 game and WA won the other, so they're fairly matched here.
And Queensland, as we saw with that the amazing result, no surprise that they can beat Western Australia, but they beat them last time 7-0. It was a very comfortable victory, and it's really set up this showdown.
And there's Terry Downs on the mound, and he's been in the Queensland team now for 7 years. So this is no change for him.
And just misses up and away with that. 1 ball and 1 strike on Justin Golds here in the top of the first. Justin Golds hits this down to the dirt to the third baseman, close to the line, and they don't get him. He beats it out. It was a nice effort by Jeff Champneys down at third, but Justin Golds is the first base runner of the game.
And that wasn't even a strike, and he gets it and pulls it all the way around to third base. He's obviously seen the ball well.
Showed great speed to beat it out, and here's another player with great speed. Glenn Knight comes in hitting 238. Real veteran of West Australian softball. He's been a regular Australian representative down the years.
And that's Terry Downs pitching to Brett Walker, the catcher.
Looking to bunt again on that pitch with a runner at first and nobody out, but he pulls away. The ball was up and out of the strike zone. Umpire's just checking to see whether he swung through. He didn't, so the count remains 2 balls and no strikes.
Perfect situation for a bunt here, runner on first. They want the runner to be on second, so WA will be looking for this hitter to put it down on the ground to advance that runner.
And again, Terry Downs misses up, so he's fallen behind in the count. 3 balls and no strikes. Each time, Glenn Knight squared around a bunt, but the pitch was high. Justin Golds over there at first base. And again, really 4 pitches in the same spot, all up, outside, out of the strike zone. And Glenn Knight walks, runners at first and second in the top of the first. A great start for Western Australia.
And not such a good start for Queensland here. I mean, they obviously knew he was going to try and bunt the ball. They would have been better to put the ball straight down the middle, let him bunt and make an out from it. Now they've got 2 runners on and none out.
And again, they almost got the runner. Justin Gold's got a huge lead off second base. Russell Taylor came around to bunt, couldn't put the ball down. Justin Gold's got a huge lead. Brett Walker looked like he was going to throw over, but decided against it.
And again, this is another perfect time for a bunt situation. Runner on 1 and 2, none out. They want their runners to be standing on second and third. And Terry Downs, he's got to get that ball in the strike zone. This is very unusual for him.
And this ball's hit up the middle by Taylor. They're waving Golds in. He comes around. It's not even close. He scores comfortably. So Russell Taylor drives in the first run of this big semi-final, and Western Australia take the lead.
And Shane King, the captain, doesn't look very happy at this stage. Bad start, first innings, and they still don't even have somebody out here. They had runners on 1 and 2. And Taylor's hit, beautiful hit straight through the centre. Perfect timing.
A lot of people think Russell Taylor's the best hitter in all of Australian men's softball, and he comes through here. He's hitting around 300, makes great contact, and puts Western Australia in front. So now we've got runners at second and third, and Dean Marangoni comes up with 11 runs batted in. He'll be looking to add to that total.
That's amazing. And his batting average is only 300, but he's got 11 RBIs. Now that's a sign of a great hitter. Someone who always hits when there's runners on base.
This ball's hit hard into centre field. It's going to drop in. Here's some more runs for Western Australia. So Dean Marangoni comes through. He drives in Glenn Knight. And Western Australia now lead 2-0.
And more RBIs for him. That's a great timed hit. That's what you need from your number 4 hitter. Runners on base, they're going to be able to hit them in. I mean, when you looked at the batting order at first and then you looked at their batting averages, you wondered why they were sitting the way they are. But the RBIs this guy's been hitting this tournament's amazing.
Good swing from Mark Adams in the batter's box. And Western Australia, what a start they're off to. It's reminiscent of the start we saw the Queensland women's team making their national grand final victory over New South Wales. 3 hits and a walk to the first 4 batters, and Western Australia are racing away.
Yes, this would be upsetting for Terry Downs. He hasn't started well. He's not been putting the strikes in. Worst possible thing for a pitcher, getting behind in the count and having to actually put the ball in the strike zone to such great hitters in the WA team.
This ball hit to the shortstop. This is going to be another run. Shane King can't come up with it. That is really, really uncharacteristic. Shane King, an outstanding defensive player, but can't handle that. And Russell Taylor comes in to score the 3rd run.
And this is exactly the same as we saw in the women's final. Once they get a couple of hits, the pressure gets on. And even Captain Shane King, very uncharacteristic, makes an error with a runner on 3.
So
WA are really sort of charging ahead here.
3-0. Runners at first and second, top of the first inning, and still there is no one out. And Western Australia continue to pile on the pressure, and they send up Steve Oliver hitting .333. He hits this high into centre field. In comes Ray Lane and handles it comfortably, and some relief for Queensland. Finally, they get the first out.
This is also uncharacteristic for Terry Downs. He's usually a great pitcher, and it really looks like the ball's not moving very much. He almost looks like he's over-pitching and trying too hard. Probably needs to relax a little bit and try and work on the spin of the ball and get it moving a bit more. Adam Humble up to bat. He wants to hit, goes for one out of the strike zone.
It's one of those situations where everybody wants to join the party, and Adam Humble obviously couldn't wait to get in the batter's box and came out swinging. ball's fouled away.
He's been batting well this tournament, batting average of 467. That's one hit out of every two he's been getting. Got to get that ball in the strike zone. Or maybe a little bit more enticing for the batter to hit. It's just a little bit too high.
This ball hit hard, through into left field. Dean Marangoni's been waved in. They let the throw, they cut it off, and Dean Marangoni scores. Another good piece of hitting by WA. Adam Humble comes through. It's 4-0.
4 runs. That's going to be hard for Queensland. This WA team are just so experienced. And as I said before the game, they've got 7 hitters in the top 10, batting over 300, I mean. Great batting team. They're going to be hard to keep down.
There's Dean Marangoni. Didn't hesitate, got waved in and scores comfortably with the 4th run for Western Australia. And already they're just dominating this semi-final and must look favourites to go straight into the grand final as Dave McKenzie steps in.
And Dave's a pitcher for the WA team and has great experience, great control as a pitcher. He's not doing too bad with the bat either, hitting 1 in 4 every time.
Yep, a 250 batting average with 1 home run, 3 runs batted in for Dave McKenzie.
Again, Downs gets behind in the count here, makes it difficult for himself.
That's really been the problem. He's missed a lot and struggled with his control, and then when he's had to throw a strike, he's thrown it down the middle, and WA have jumped on it. This pitch gets away, and the runners are going to move up a base, so it puts runners at 2nd and 3rd. Mark Adams moves down to 3rd, Adam Humble at 2nd base, and the pressure continues to mount on Terry Downs.
He's not looking happy there. When teams keep getting a few hits, you're not pitching as well. You know, life gets pretty hard on the mound when you're pitching.
Dave McKenzie lost this down behind first base. Over comes Phil Horn, and he handles that for the 2nd out.
And that ball from Terry Downs had a little bit more movement, was moving up in the strike zone, a rise pitch. And McKenzie gets underneath it to Phil Horn.
So with 2 out and 2 runners on, the number 9 hitter in the order comes to bat in the 1st inning. It's Steve Tutchell. Comes in hitting .313.
I'll have to say it, but it's a nightmare. 9 batters in 1 innings. Usually don't see that at the Nationals.
Yeah, you certainly don't see it when you've got the number 1 and number 2 teams playing each other in this important 2nd semi-final. Tutchell gets a great swing away. I think he knew that was one that he needed to get after, and he did, but couldn't put it in play. 2 balls and 1 strike.
It didn't seem to have much movement on it. Just sort of sat in the strike zone and said, hit me. That's a good pitch. That's what Downs needs to do.
It's right on the knees. Evens the count up at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
They need this out. They need the 3rd out, and they need to get into bat, Queensland.
This ball hit down the 3rd baseline, and it looks like it's been called foul. It certainly has. That was a very close call. But Bob Henning, plate umpire from Canada, makes the call quickly. Pete Cahill, the coach of Western Australia, comes down to check it out. You can see Bob indicating how much it was fouled by, and it wasn't much. Yeah, Bob Henning said he swung through. Steve Tutchell can't quite believe it, but that's the third out, and it ends the inning. In the inning, though, Western Australia pick up 4 big runs. They come through with 4 hits. There was 1 Queensland error. There it is. Bob Henning was sure he went after it, and that ends the inning. But Western Australia jump out in front, 4-0 in the middle of the first. And for Queensland, they need to do something quickly. Shane King hitting 524. Then Brett Walker, Terry Downs at 571. It's incredible. Jeff Champneys hits 4. Jason Nathan, Phil Horn, Ralph Nathan, Chris McRae hits 8. And the left fielder, Scott Sunley, bats in the 9th spot. And defensively for Western Australia around the outfield, Mark Adams, Adam Humble and Justin Golds. Steve Oliver, Steve Tutchell, Glenn Knight and Dean Marangoni around the infield. Russell Taylor does the catching. And on the plate, the very experienced Dave McKenzie gets to pitch to this Queensland order with a 4-run lead.
Dave McKenzie on the mound to Shane King, captain of the Queensland team here.
There you see Dave McKenzie, 18 innings, no walks. Has not walked a single hitter in 18 innings on the mound. That's all you need to know about Dave McKenzie. Just throws strikes, moves the ball around.
And he hits those spots just amazingly. He's such a great pitcher to watch.
I think anyone that's ever pitched in softball, the notion of being able to pitch 3 or 4 games and not walk a single hitter is just incredible, especially at the top level.
It's got to be a pitcher's dream. And just like that, catcher calls it on the inside and low, calls a drop, a ball that's moving downwards, and it goes exactly to where the catcher's called it. But he's up against Shane King, who's batting 2nd in the Nationals. He's got some great stats.
Yeah, he certainly does, hitting 524. It means more than once every 2 at-bats he picks up a hit. 52% of the time he gets a base hit. He's got 3 home runs, 7 runs batted in, and really has been the spark plug at the top of the order that's got Queensland started.
And a slower ball dropping in there.
Yeah, it was a great change-up. Just took a little bit off it, and Shane King let alone, but it evens the count up at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Oh, and another one.
Great pitch on the outside. Shane King has no choice but to go after it, and he strikes out. First strikeout for Dave McKenzie, and straight away he gets the lead-off hitter.
That's a great pitch there. He lets it go. A little bit of speed taken off it, and it just drops away right down to the catcher.
Wow, that was a faster one. Brett Walker, the catcher for Queensland in the box, chases after it.
Now this guy's been in the team since 1991 in the Opens, so he's quite a talented player.
Looks to bunt, but pops it up and handled comfortably by Dave McKenzie. Brett Walker looking to get it down on the ground and beat it out, but it ends up a comfortable out for Western Australia.
That's an interesting move. I mean, bunting when they're down by, 4 runs at this stage? You'd think they'd want to be hitting the ball and getting their runners round.
Well, somebody who can certainly hit the ball is Terry Downs, batting 571, the leading hitter in the National Championship. 2 home runs, 7 runs batted in. And Queensland are really going to rely on him to get things going. The top 4 hitters in the Queensland order have all been outstanding, hitting above 333 and 2 guys hitting over 500, but it really does tail away. The last 5 hitters averaging in the low 200s. So these top 4 guys are the ones that Queensland are going to look to make things happen.
You know, the hardest part about Dave McKenzie being on the mound is you want him to come back onto the strike zone to make it easy for you to get hits, but He doesn't need to come back on the strike zone because he keeps hitting those spots on the edge all the time.
Great spot. That's exactly what we're talking about. Right there, low on the inside corner. Definitely a strike, and Terry Downs leaves it alone.
And it had such an angle on it, it kept moving in towards the hitter and just catching the edge of that plate.
Did it again. Great spot right on the inside. Strikes out Terry Downs. Perfect control. You can see why Dave McKenzie's been so dominant. And there we are after one complete inning. It's 4-0 in favour of Western Australia. Well, Terry Downs really needs to start getting on top of these Western Australian hitters here in the top of the second inning. They picked up the 4 hits in the top of the first, lead 4-0. All 9 West Australian players came to bat. So here in the second, we're back to the top of the order with the leadoff hitter, Justin Golds. And Justin picked up a base hit to the third baseman. It was a high chopper on the line, and he beat it out to pick up the first hit of the game and scored one of WA's 4 runs.
That's a good start from Terry Downs. He gets a strike in. That's what he's been aiming to do all game. Excellent. He's got 2 strikes on the batter now. He can sort of try and move the ball around a bit, entice him for a K2, try and get struck out just like that.
Just exactly what he needed to do. You see that pitch right on the knees on the outside corner. He started this inning a lot better than he pitched in the last. Dominated Justin Gold, struck him out for the first out and brings up Glenn Knight.
Working on this drop ball, Terry Downs just keeps throwing at the last batter and to Glenn Knight. Ball that's moving down in the strike zone.
Oh, Glenn Knight, you can see, I think he realised he should have got that one. Just fouled it back. It was a pitch right where he wanted it. The count's now even at 1 ball and 1 strike.
I don't know what you think, Michael, but it looks like Terry Downs is actually moving the ball this innings, and he didn't seem to be doing too much last time.
The pitches he threw into the strike zone last inning seemed like they were really flat, and already to Justin Golds and that pitch to Glenn Knight, they seem like they've got a bit more hop and a bit more movement on them, and he's going to have more success that way. That one missed, but it was a little drop ball that dived down at the last minute. It looked like it had some movement on it as well, and that's the critical thing. It almost doesn't matter how fast you throw it. If you throw it flat down the middle, somebody's going to hit it. You've got to move the ball around.
3 balls and 1 strike, behind in the count again.
And he walks in, Glenn Knight for the second time. Walked on 4 pitches in the first inning, 5 pitches here in the second, and puts a runner at first base and 1 out.
I think the one thing with Glenn Knight is he looks like a very patient batter. 2 walks so far.
Russell Taylor again smashes it up the middle.
The second hit from Russell Taylor.
Yeah, he's just a fabulous hitter. Got great technique. Always makes solid contact.
And straight through the middle, just like he did last time. Runner on base. That's great hitting. Great team hitting.
And puts runners at first and second. WA coach has just called time. Looks like they're going to make a change. Barry Sholton is going to come and run at second base for Glenn Knight. As Dean Marangoni, the RBI man, comes up. Drove in some runs back in the first. He's got 12 for the tournament. Incredibly high total. There's Sholton at second base getting ready to go.
This is a terrible situation for Queensland with Marangoni up with 2 runners on.
And he hits this hard up the middle. Here comes Sholton. No, they're going to hold him at third base as Ray Lane makes a strong throw. So the bases are loaded on a single by Dean Marangoni.
Marangoni's amazing. He's the RBI king here. Every time they have runners on base, he keeps hitting them in. This is a bad start for Queensland. But credit to WA. Every time they have runners on base, their next hitters come up and, sure enough, hit them in.
Mark Adams, great swing, really got after that one. Mark Adams in the batter's box. Marangoni's at first, Taylor at second, and Sholton over at third base. There's one out. It's Barry Sholton.
Downs has got to put it in the strike zone. He's got 3 runners on. It's not as if he can walk this hitter.
But he's got to be careful because he doesn't want to throw it straight down the middle and have Adams get a good swing away. That's exactly what he wanted to do.
He's got to pitch tough this innings.
Here we go, guys. Let's pick it up a bit. Here we go. 1, 2. Oh!
Just missed away. Terry Downs keeping the ball down to Mark Adams. It's where he needs to be. But that one just misses. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Bases loaded.
Still got a little bit to play with here. Can afford to keep it on the edge again. Excellent.
Struck him out. Great piece of pitching. Kept it down away from him. Mark Adams goes after it. Swings through it, and that's the second out. Great piece of pitching by Terry Downs. Oh, this one gets away. Brett Walker can't come up with it, and Barry Sholton just scores ahead of the throw. And that's the 5th run for Western Australia. Real tragedy there for Terry Downs. Did a great job to Mark Adams, but this one's in the dirt.
Obviously, Brett Walker's calling those low balls because he knows it's his best pitch at the moment, and Terry Downs pitches it short, and it gets away from him.
And Barry Sholton, lots of aggression on his face as he runs in to score the 5th run.
That's amazing. Steve Oliver takes a swing at it on the outside, and the ball comes back and hits him.
1 ball, 1 strike.
He really got over there after it.
He certainly did.
So still runners at second and third. There's 2 out now.
Same thing again.
Same pitch, same swing, same result.
Brings the count to 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You can see that one from the overhead shot. Just missed inside. Evens the count 2 and 2. Steve Oliver chases it, it's in the dirt. Brett Walker will make the throw down to first base. It's handled by Phil Horn. That ends the inning. Queensland get out of a fair bit of trouble. They do give up the 1 run on the wild pitch, but it could have been a lot worse.
Brett Walker does a great job of keeping the ball in front there.
And Steve Oliver strikes out. Good job by Brett Walker, and at the end of that inning, it's 5-0 to Western Australia. Well, in the bottom of the second inning, Dave McKenzie gets Phil Horn to hit a ground ball to second base and retires all 3 Queensland hitters. Then in the top of the third, Terry Downs gets some revenge on the West Australian pitcher as he strikes him out. But then Dave McKenzie obviously gets the chance on the mound, pitching to the star of the Queensland team, Shane King. Shane King really the guy that makes it all happen, but Dave McKenzie having a great game, and he blows it by him to strike Shane King out on a pitch up in the strike zone. And then in the top of the 4th, one of the real highlights, Russell Taylor hits the ball over the fence. It's going to be a home run, but Ray Lane, the centre fielder from Queensland, jumps up, takes a miraculous catch, drags it back into play, and that ends the inning. A fabulous highlight, a fabulous catch, but WA stay in front. Well, the middle of the 4th inning is the halfway point in any softball game, and at the halfway mark, Western Australia lead 5-0. So Queensland have really got to pick things up in the second half of this ball game, and they're going to try and start it off with their catcher, Brett Walker.
And I think that's not the way to start. They need to get Dave McKenzie pitching in that strike zone. Leave those high balls alone.
And really, as long as they chase them, Mackenzie will continue to throw them up and out of the strike zone. Does it again. That pitch was up as well. Brett Walker swings through it for the second strike.
I suppose the hardest part from the batter when they're facing a pitcher like Mackenzie, when he first lets go of that rise, it looks like it's a strike coming in and then it takes off and rises up higher and higher. So by the time you actually swing, it's past your bat. Bit unfortunate, that.
Yep. Whoa, that was a little wild one that got away from Dave Mackenzie. Won't be too troubled by that.
No, he's got two strikes on Brett Walker, so he can play around for a little bit and hope that Brett's going to have another swing at something that's not such a good pitch.
Great pitch again. He got him on 3 strikes that were up. They were all rise balls. Went past him for the first out.
And nothing seems to faze Dave Mackenzie. He just stands on the mound. He looks relaxed. He always says he's nervous when he pitches, but he looks very, very relaxed in there.
This ball hit hard to the third base. Well stopped by Steve Oliver. That's a great play. That was absolutely smashed by Terry Downs.
Yes, we haven't seen a ball from the Queenslanders get hit that hard yet. That's the first one by Terry, and that's unlucky. That's a great stop by the third base at WA.
Absolutely no justice. That was ripped. Jeff Champneys now steps in with 2 out. Hit a fly ball to right field back in the second inning. This ball is hit hard again into left field, and the first hit of the ball game for Queensland here in the bottom of the 4th inning. It eventually had to come. Downs had a good swing, and now Champneys has a good one, and Queensland have got a base runner.
Yes, let's hope Queensland can continue this and get some runs in. 5 runs is a lot to get back, though, especially against a pitcher like Dave Mackenzie.
Runner at first base and 2 out, and up comes the designated hitter, Jason Nathan. And he goes after this one as well. Hits it deep down the right field line. And over comes Jason Golds. Makes a comfortable catch. So a couple of hard hit balls. One by Terry Downs and a base hit to Jeff Champneys. But it all comes to nothing as Jason Nathan lofts the ball into right field, and Jason Golds handles it comfortably down the right field line. Dave Mackenzie does the job again and keeps Western Australia in front by that score of 5-0. Well, here we are in the top of the 5th inning. Western Australia maintaining that 5-0 lead. 6 hits to 1.
And a few softballers in the stand there, I notice.
We've got a bit of a mixed crowd out there in the grandstands as Terry Downs is on the plate, pitching to Dean Marangoni.
That was an interesting way to catch the ball from the catcher, sort of caught it backwards as it was flying through the air.
Yeah, and it's coming pretty quick. He got that backhanded sideways catch on it.
Just missing the plate there.
Yeah, just a little bit down, I think. It was a pretty close pitch. Went in Dean Marangoni's favour.
Obviously, they don't want to give Dean anything here. 2 hits already.
That was right there, straight down the middle. Marangoni laid off it.
Nice pitch there, nice dropping pitch.
The little drop ball on the outside corner. Marangoni swings through it. And again, he had a good swing, but the ball just dropped and disappeared out of the range of the bat. So Terry Downs working his way back on top of Dean Marangoni. Gets a ground ball to third base. Well handled by Jeff Champneys. He throws it over. And Marangoni's retired for the first out here in the top of the 5th.
Well, that was interesting too, because the pitcher was behind in the count there but came back. And again, his drop balls seem to be working again. One innings he seems to have them, the next he doesn't.
Yeah, he really hasn't looked all that comfortable, and that certainly hasn't looked consistent. But when he's had his best pitches, he's really been able to work well against the West Australian hitters.
Mark Adams would be looking for a hit here. He hasn't had one yet this game.
Ground ball to shortstop in the first inning, you'll remember, was erred by Shane King, and he struck out in the second. Chased one way up out of the strike zone, and Brett Walker couldn't come up with it. Hit the screen behind home plate, but it's still a strike.
Pitcher didn't look too happy with Brett Walker's call then. Shakes it off. I suppose they must be wondering where they're going to be calling at this stage. They've been having so much trouble getting it past the WA hitters.
Mark Adams again shows that he likes that high pitch. It's way up out of the strike zone, almost over his head. Second one he's struck at, and it's 3 balls and 2 strikes. But Terry Downs misses down. Surprised that he didn't try and go back upstairs on him and get him to chase another one, but misses low, and that's a walk.
That's exactly right. You know, he's been getting him on the high pitches the whole time. And then he throws one down and not even near the strike zone, and he's not happy about it either.
So a runner at first base and 1 out. And the West Australian third base, Steve Oliver. That's a much better pitch. That had a lot of zip on it, and it was in the perfect spot down on the knees. Good start to Steve Oliver by Terry Downs. Steve Oliver gets after this hard and hits it deep. Centre fielder looks up. This is a massive home run over the second fence, out into the tree. Steve Oliver, a 2-run shot.
Not over the first fence, but over the huge second fence. That's amazing. That's a huge hit.
And Steve Oliver trots in, a happy WA team. They now lead 7-0. This is as far as you can hit a softball. This is a monster shot by Steve Oliver, and it just kept going and going and going, and that ball's never to be seen again.
I wonder if they ever do get it back.
There's a good 20 or 30 metres between the home run fence and the back security fence, and it cleared both fences easily and kept going. Happy Steve Oliver, happy Western Australia. They lead 7-0 and are on their way to the grand final.
You wonder what Dennis Cullen, the coach of the Queensland team, is thinking at the moment. He's leaving Terry Downs on there to pitch, keeps leaving him on. Obviously he has a game plan for the next game, and obviously he's keeping his second pitcher out there so that he can be fresh for the next game.
Yeah, it's it's something that I think we saw in the Women's Nationals, where Melanie Roach, the star pitcher of New South Wales, kept getting brought in tough situations. And sometimes you've just got to concede you're not going to win, and you may as well leave someone out there to keep everybody else fresh. But Terry Downs does the job there on Adam Humble, gets him to hit a ground ball back to the mound, and that's the second out.
Yes, I suppose Terry Downs isn't real happy that he's being kept out there, but he's an experienced player and he's just got to keep working at it and do the right thing by his team. And obviously Dennis Cullen, the coach, does want to keep his pitcher fresh for the next game. So Downs just has to keep at it and keep at it.
And up against his opposition pitcher this time, Dave McKenzie. Got him to pop up for a catch in the first inning, struck him out in the third. McKenzie hits this into the dirt, and it's going to be handled by third baseman Jeff Champneys. Makes a strong throw and just gets him at first base. It was a close one, but it was called out, and that ends the inning.
Well, that was a very close call there. I'd like to see that one again. Oh, we are, which is really good.
Here's the ball hit into the dirt. Takes a long time to get to the third baseman, Jeff Champneys. Fires it to first base. Here's Dave McKenzie heading in.
Ooh.
Wow. Looked like he beat it.
Oh, yes. Or even at the same time, it's supposed to be given to the runner.
That's exactly right. The ball's got to get there before the runner does. And on that shot, it looked like Dave McKenzie was on the base when the ball arrived. But even so, he was called out. But Western Australia will still be happy with that inning. They pick up the 2 runs on the huge home run by Steve Oliver and extend their lead to 7-0.
Brings up Phil Horn to bat for Queensland. Phil Horn's first year in the state side in the seniors. And amazingly, he's vice-captain, first year in the seniors. That obviously shows you that Dennis Collin has a lot of confidence in this fellow.
Phil Horn playing first base for Queensland in this ball game. Dave McKenzie's still on the mound. He's got 6 strikeouts through 4 innings and has given up only the 1 hit. That was back in the 4th to Jeff Champney. So Dave McKenzie really dominating the Queensland hitters, doing a great job on the mound.
That's a huge rise ball there, way out of the strike zone.
Just kept going up and up, but Phil Horn doesn't chase it.
I suppose for Dennis Collins too, Phil Horn's the other pitcher in his team. He's got him playing on first base. He'd obviously made the decision right from the start that it was going to be a one-pitcher game, Terry Downs.
Yeah, and Terry Downs was either going to get the job done, or if it wasn't going to work out, then he was going to leave him in there to throw the whole ball game, keep Phil Horn fresh and give him another chance. That's a little bit of a struggle for Dave McKenzie right now with his control. He started off well the first couple of pitches to Phil Horn, but he's thrown a really high one, a couple in the dirt, and now the count's full. Straight in there, rise ball, just had a bit of hop on it, and Phil Horn swings through it for the first out.
And it really was a ball to hit in there. It comes right in the middle of the strike zone, but most importantly, just moves up a bit, that touch. Phil Horn misses it.
Second base, Ralph Nathan steps in with 1 out here in the 5th inning.
There's the consistent movement, consistent spotting.
And he gets part of this, but just lofts the fly ball comfortably to second base, Glenn Knight. That retires Ralph Nathan with the 2nd out.
Gets it right in on the handle there, hits it inside out to second base. Ball comes on the inside, she hits it late and it forces over towards the right side of the field.
So 2 quick comfortable outs for Dave McKenzie, and he comes back, fires that one past Chris McRae for strike 1.
Queensland batters are struggling against Dave McKenzie. They're just not being able to... They've had, what, 1 hit to this stage. Can't win a game doing that.
Great change-up. Just really turns it over, takes a little bit of pace off it, starts to slow and drop as it gets to home plate, and he's got such good control that he throws it into the strike zone. It's impossible for the hitters to adjust because the fastball is so fast. It's such a contrast that they can't slow down. And then he comes back with a fastball up and away and blows him away. Great piece of pitching by Dave McKenzie that strikes out Chris McRae. So a comfortable inning for Western Australia. In the top of the 5th, they pick up the 2 runs, and then in the bottom of the inning, Dave McKenzie does the job. So we played 5 complete innings, and Western Australia leads 7 runs to nothing.
Thank you for watching Fast Pitch Softball.
In the top of the 6th inning, Steve Tutchell comes up and rips one into centre field. It's a great piece of hitting for his first hit of the ball game. And while Steve Tutchell's on first base, Glenn Knight steps into the batter's box. And he strikes out, but on the play, Steve Tutchell heads down into scoring position at second base. But it was all to come to nothing as Terry Downs stayed on top of the West Australian hitters and got Russell Taylor. Finally got Russell Taylor. Hits a ground ball back to him, and that ends any threat from Western Australia. Things look better for Queensland in the bottom of the 6th as Shane King rips one down the left field line, just bounces on the line. He heads into second with a 2-base hit. Good start for Queensland in the 6th, but Terry Downs comes into the batter's box and Dave McKenzie wants to get his opposite number and does. He strikes him out. A great pitch from Dave McKenzie, And that leaves Western Australia leading by 7 runs to nothing. Well, we're into the final inning of the ball game, and Western Australia still retain this 7-run lead. They look like they're on their way to the grand final with this convincing performance against Queensland. But there's 1 inning to go. Dean Marangoni's going to lead off for Western Australia here in the top of the 7th.
Looks impossible for Queensland. They're never going to be able to get back 7 runs against this team.
Certainly an uphill battle, and there's no saying that Western Australia can't add to their 7-run total. As Dean Marangoni hits one to third base. Again, well handled by Jeff Champneys. He's had a good game defensively, and that's the first out.
And Marangoni, the 2 times he hasn't had a hit are the 2 times there haven't been runners on.
It's been an incredible performance by him in this tournament. He really has come through in pressure situations, as now Mark Adams steps into the batter's box and hits it hard and deep to centre field. It's got a chance and it carries out. It's the back fence. Mark Adams picks up a home run and adds an extra run to Western Australia's total. They now lead 8-0.
Well, it just shows you the strength of the WA team. He hadn't had a hit all game. He comes out and blows one straight over the fence, just like Steve Oliver did before.
Yeah, it really has been a triumphant game for Western Australia. 8 runs on 9 hits, and Mark Adams caps it off here in the 7th inning. Again, a long shot hits the base of the back fence. And it's hard to imagine that anyone could hit it further than that, as Steve Oliver did when he hit it a lot further. But Mark Adams will be happy with that performance. And here is the guy, Steve Oliver. Last time up, he absolutely crushed one over the centre field fence, his 4th home run of the tournament.
Oh, check swing there.
Terry Downs going to pitch the whole game, working to the 7th inning. He's struck out 9 hitters so far. Wow! That one got away. That was up over Steve Oliver's head. Ducked out of the way.
That one just kept moving up and up and up and towards the hitter.
Oliver hits this one hard past Champneys. Good dive. It goes out to left field where it's handled by Scott Sunley. So Steve Oliver picks up his 2nd hit, and he's at first base with 1 out.
Downs pitches that right on the outside of the plate, and Oliver gets it, pulls it all the way around to left field. He's obviously seen that ball quite well.
Certainly is. So he's at first base. Here's Adam Humble, the centre fielder.
Another check swing from Humble.
Having a great tournament, hitting .444. And very typical of this entire Western Australian order. Every hitter, it seems, in the order is having a great tournament, and that's the reason they're going to go straight into the grand final.
The only one who hasn't had a hit so far is Dave McKenzie, but he got called out on first base last time. That would have made his first hit. I bet he's crying over that call.
Plus, he's shut Queensland out on the other side, so I think his teammates will forgive him for not getting a hit. He's done his job.
He certainly has.
Well, that one gets away, so Steve Oliver is going to jog comfortably down to 2nd base. Put another runner into scoring position with 1 out.
Downs, he pitches a good innings, and then the next innings he loses control. Very uncharacteristic of him. He's normally a consistent and a good pitcher.
So Adam Humble just waiting for Queensland team to sort themselves out. They're just in talking to Terry Downs. They'll move back now, and Humble steps into the batter's box. Great pitch, perfect pitch, right where he wanted it. Low rise in the bottom of the strike zone. Humble swings through it, and that's the 2nd out.
Yes, they have a run in scoring position here. They don't want the batter to get another hit. That would be the worst thing for Queensland.
And Dave McKenzie, the pitcher's being given a rest. They're sending Mark Hall up. Mark Hall comes to bat still with Steve Oliver at first base and 2 out.
Now this guy looks pretty strong.
Goes up for the first one, no waiting around. Fouls it down the right field line, just out of play. Another good pitch from Terry Downs.
Hall definitely wants to hit here. He's swinging at it. They're out of the strike zone. Downs can put it out of the strike zone and hope he gets another K2 here. It's a good move by the coach, really. Bring somebody in, give them a little bit more experience.
And of course the re-entry rule exists in softball, so even though he's come into bat for Dave McKenzie can come back into the game, and I'm sure we'll see him come out onto the mound to finish the bottom of the 7th. Swings at it, it gets away from Brett Walker, he grabs it, makes a strong throw down to first, and that retires Mark Hall. A little bit of a moment there where it looked like Mark Hall was going to make it, but the strikeout counts. Mark Adams picks up the big home run in the 7th inning as you see Brett Walker find the ball and does the job. But Western Australia extend their lead to 8 runs to nothing. They've got 10 hits to Queensland's 2. Each team's made an error, but it's those 8 big runs that have really set Western Australia on their way to the grand final. They just need 3 more outs.
10 runs is an amazing amount of runs here.
So, happy people in the crowd here at Canberra as Jeff Champneys, who's played great defence at third base, steps in the batter's box. Dave McKenzie back on the mound. It's a ground ball to shortstop, handled by Steve Tutchell, makes a strong, powerful throw. Had to wait till it came down on the high bounce, but he gets Jeff Champneys.
And Champneys goes for a ball out of the zone. He had a hit last time up to bat, one of the few people in the Queensland team who has.
Pretty close play too at first base, but they just got him on a close call for the first out. 2 outs away from victory, Western Australia, as Jason Nathan steps in.
And Queensland here almost look like they want the game over and done with. First pitch that comes down, they're swinging at.
Dave McKenzie still no walks, 43 strikeouts. It's just been an incredible tournament for Dave McKenzie. Every time he falls behind a hitter, he comes back with great strikes right on the corner and manages to get himself out of trouble. Chases this high pitch, it's hit high in the air, back by home plate. Russell Taylor comes around, makes a great catch. That was swirling around in the air, and Russell Taylor followed it and handles it for the second out.
This has been an easy game for WA. Dave McKenzie on the mound. He gets his early strikes in and then plays around with those hitters. You know, the Queensland hitters should realise they've got to hit the first strike here. They can't let Dave McKenzie stay on top of them.
Phil Horn does go after the first strike, but it's a rise ball and he swings through it. So 2 out here in the bottom of the 7th. Queensland down to their last out. They trail by 8 runs.
They're swinging at everything here, Queensland.
Just trying to make contact. 2 hits only against Dave McKenzie. There was also an error. So in 7 innings, only 3 people have reached base and none of them have scored. And he gets him. 3 high rise balls in a row. Dave McKenzie shuts out Queensland on 2 hits. A fabulous performance, but the real story in this one was the West Australian offence. As you see that final out, they absolutely jumped all over Terry Downs, picked up 8 big runs. They really started it with 4 in the top of the first, and that was all that Dave McKenzie needed. So Western Australia run out winners 8-0, and they're going to head to the grand final. 8 runs on 10 hits and 1 error. Queensland, no runs. They got shut out. 2 hits only for Queensland and 1 error. Dave McKenzie, a fabulous job on the mound, and things look good for Western Australia as they go to the grand final.
great game on the mound. That was fantastic, only 2 hits. Queensland have been awesome this week with the bat. Did you think you were going to be able to contain them?
No, very nervous at the start, and I think nervous every inning as I go out there. I was very nervous, but we got through that one, and they ended up missing the ball more times than they connected, so it was good.
Yes, it certainly was. I mean, only 2 hits and 11 K2s, a fantastic effort. I was sitting there watching it and thinking, you were throwing it so effortlessly, hardly any problem at all. Is that how you felt?
No, very nervous, and that's just my style of pitching, I suppose. I don't do any more than that.
This puts you into the final. Who do you think you'll be playing?
I suspect Queensland. I wouldn't be surprised if I see them again.
So do you think you'll be on the mound in the final against whoever makes it?
Well, we've got another young pitcher who's quite fresh, and he pitched a grand final last year and got us through, and I'm not quite sure what decision we'll go with.
Well, I'm sure after that effort your coach must be looking at putting you on the mound again. Congratulations, great game.
Thanks very much.
Well, we have our first team into the grand final. It's Western Australia. Next week, we're going to catch up with Victoria against the ACT in a knockout semi-final. On behalf of Joyce Lester, I'm Michael Palmer. We'll see you then.